Let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, that we may walk in his paths. The nation's ninth of Av invites you to join us in the conversation of Christians and Jews walking together in fulfillment of God's covenant promises.
We're here for another Nation's Ninth of Av interview, and I'm joined by Abe Truitt, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Oh, why don't we start just about you, where you're from, how you made it to Israel. Just give us a little glimpse into your life and what you do.
Well, it all started. I was born in Colorado 28 years ago. My parents decided that one of the best things that we could possibly do with my life as a kid was to make Aliyah, immigrate to the land of Israel. So they took me here, and I have to say that I was kicking and screaming when they dragged me to Israel. But I'm probably probably one of the bigger reasons why they're staying here today. I made Aliyah when I was 12, and so I grew up here in Israeli society. If I make grammatic mistakes, then you know to blame it on the fact that I still have that education as a 12-year-old in my English. I served here in the Israeli military and had the pleasure of serving with many different organizations in Israel as well. That's a little bit about me.
So at what point do you feel like Israel really became home for you, or you felt like it was a place where God had you to stay?
It took me a while, honestly. I think one of the biggest things that convinced me was the food. Christians, when they want to understand the struggles of their fellow Jewish brothers, they have to understand the meaning of kosher. And the meaning of kosher means that not all food is accessible to you. Everything you smell, you can't eat. And as a growing boy, that desire to want to eat really kicked in around after the age of 12. And I really started settling into the Israel through the culture, through the food, through the people, through the language, through everything. And the military, I would say, made me feel like a native. It made me feel like I had the shared experience with, I'd say about 98% or 90% of the people on the streets here.
So you tell us more about the organization you work with now, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, how you got into that, and a little bit more about what the organization does.
Absolutely. I joined the fellowship 3.5 years ago. I've been part of the fellowship during very, very turbulent times. I applied for the job not looking for anything specifically in this field between Christians and Jews. I had no knowledge or understanding of the complex relationship that exists between our peoples. But I was looking for a job, and I went in for an interview to lead groups and to be in front of groups of people who are coming to the land of Israel. And I was accepted as a role as managing the tourism initiative for the fellowship. And I started reading the books that were written by Rabbi Yechiel Eckstein, who founded the fellowship around 37 years ago. Rabbi Eckstein passed away a little over a year ago. But his legacy and his organization that he created, his foundation, is so incredibly huge and big, and it's so amazing to be a part of that today and continue on that legacy. But he's really the one who inspired me to want to stay in this field and to want to continue working in the field between Christians and Jews. Not only do we work to understand one another through our organization, not only do we work to educate one another on who we are and what we believe, but we also find what we have in common between us, between Christians and Jews. We find the things that we agree on, that we find the things that bring us together and not tear us apart. And that foundation is so strong that millions of people around the world were inspired by that message. And not just be inspired, we also offer a method of action. The fellowship is it's not just voting with your voice, it's voting with your feet and your hands as well. We invite people to be involved in Israel, in providing for Israel and helping the Jewish people in many different ways all throughout the world. And so that connection, and then that connection leading to action, is something that I'm just thrilled to be a part of every day.
So what are some specific projects that your organization does to help, heal the relationship between Christians and Jews?
So our organization was founded by an Orthodox rabbi, and much of the work that he did in his early days set a lot of the groundwork for the relationship that we have today. He understood that this was back in the 80s, that there were hundreds of thousands of Holocaust survivors who had come out of the Holocaust and lived in situations of absolute poverty, absolute disarray, both in the Ukraine and in Israel. And he sought to find, first of all, a solution, but that solution had to be based on a partnership. It had to be based on finding people of a similar mindset, people who also wanted to support Israel like he did. And he found an incredible friend, or found many friends, he found millions of friends within the Christian communities. And it was a surprise to him during that time. He was really one of the bricklayers of the relationship that Christians and Jews enjoy to this day, by discussing what Christians believe, what Jewish theology is, and how we complement each other, like I mentioned before. But he also found that many Christians around the world were eager and excited to learn about Judaism. They were eager to learn how Judaism applies to their Savior, to Jesus Christ, who was a Jewish person, and they found so many incredible things that enhance their faith instead of taking them away from it. You'd think that you learn about another religion that's separate from your own, that it would push you away, but no, rather Judaism comes to complement Christianity because it is the foundation of Christianity. Rabbi Eckstein understood this, he found this, and he created teaching materials, educational packets. He spoke in front of communities all over the world, and he inspired just a whole generation of people to partner with the Jewish people, to support the Jewish people, to support Israel, which we see in our time is more crucial than ever for its continuing existence. So first and foremost, what we do at the fellowship is we lay that foundation of faith. We go out to teach, we go out to learn, and we also go out to learn how we can connect you to the land of Israel, how we can connect you to the Jewish roots of your faith.
That's awesome. That's inspiring.
It's a lot of
So
fun.
with the Nations Ninth of Av, you've been involved for about last year now. So tell us a little bit about how you got connected with them and found out about the Ninth of Av.
Well, part of my job at the fellowship is researching groups that are coming to Israel. At the fellowship, I have the unique opportunity to provide people a much deeper connection to Israel. There are hundreds of thousands of people, mainly Christians, mainly evangelical Christians, that come to the land of Israel on tours, and it's really funny. Many of them have never met an Israeli before, despite them being in the land of Israel. So often I'll offer experiences to groups that are coming here to meet with the community members, to do something unusual to a certain sense, to have an experience and to learn about the people that they hear about and they learn about so much, who have retained this faith of Judaism over so many years. And I came across the Nations Ninth of Av on a website during my research, and it shocked me. It was incredible. I'd never seen an initiative like this before. It really touched my heart. It was incredible to think of Christians standing for Zion in a certain sense, Christians mourning for the loss of Zion alongside their Jewish brethren, because we all faced a calamity in the day that the Second Temple was destroyed. We faced the calamity of God distancing himself from the people, essentially, in Jewish religion beliefs. And we faced a disconnect also at that point as well. There was a huge split off between Judaism and Christianity at that time. And now today, to stand together in places like Jerusalem and to advocate together for Israel and to mourn the loss of what we once had, our relationship with God, it makes sense to me. It just made sense suddenly. So I wanted to get involved, and I reached out to find out how I could get involved.
Right. So you've been working with it for the past year now. What do you see like the future of us working together in the Nations Ninth of Av?
I see the future as well, very optimistic. I think that it's like we've created this relationship between Christians and Jews, and we've fostered that relationship for many years. It's not the easiest. It comes with its tricks. It comes with its difficulties. It comes with its naysayers that this can never work. But I think the Nations Ninth of Av is another proof that we can not only be friends, but we can have a shared experience of mourning, a shared experience of loss. We can understand how to, I suppose, forgive one another, or learn to apologize to one another for past calamities. The future I see is that hopefully this initiative will spread to more and more people, and the first question I'll want everyone to ask is, what does my faith, what does my existence have to do with the land of Israel and these random people, these Jewish people who are spread all over the world? What is my what is the foundation of my faith exactly? Like how am I supposed to understand this? And just by asking that question, they've already been influenced and inspired to be the next generation of the watchmen on the walls of Israel, the watchmen of the walls of Zion.
So I know you're there in Israel, and there's so much happening around the world, and God is working in so many ways. But how do you see God moving and operating in Israel and in the lives of the Jewish people there?
What's been crazy? We're currently in this this whole calamity. I don't know what you want to call it. This crisis of this pandemic of COVID-19, and
Right.
Israel is a very, very international country. I think there's these statistics of there's 8 million Israelis, and about 6 million of them travel other places. We are a very, very
Wow.
outgoing community here in Israel, and not only that, we receive 4 million tourists a year. So
Mhm.
it's a hotspot of tourism in the world, and it seemed most likely that the virus would come here and cause absolute havoc, like it did in many European countries that are also popular in tourism. But right at the same time as the virus was happening, we started having these prayer requests that were being placed in the Western Wall. We pray for the safety of Israel during this time. We pray for the nation of Israel during this time. And I kept seeing these requests and handling them in our offices. I kept hearing that from friends of mine across the world who are saying, we're praying for Zion at this time. We care about Zion at this time. And it's almost like a shield goes up around Israel, as the cases that we have here are not, thank God, nearly as extreme as everyone predicted, as it could have been. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. And even until now, the effects have not so terribly damaged the people of Israel. There are difficulties about shutting down a government, which everyone is facing at this time, but the actual effect of the virus seems to have been exceedingly diminished. Um, I want to credit God for everything, but one thing that's always credited to God is health, oftentimes, and there's the three big ones: the health, the money, and the faith. And here, our health was protected. Our health was divinely intervened with, and I can't find any other explanation other than the prayers that went around the world and thoughts that people had about Israel during this time.
Yeah, it's amazing to see God's hand and God working, even in difficult times, just to be with his people and put his hands of protection over the land.
Absolutely.
So your organization has been working for, years to build bridges between the Jewish and Christian communities. So what is your organization and your vision and hope to see Jews and Christians coming together and heal the rift that's been there for so long?
Whoa, I mean, like my vision. I'm small cheese in this case, but for the most part, the vision is already been laid out for us thousands of years ago that we're just fulfilling to this day. I can't say it any better than the prophets have. That
Mm.
we will see the nations of the world beckon to the land of Israel. God is raising banners to the nations, and God is really good at advertising. Let me tell you, because we've seen the nations come to Israel, each and every one of them with their own unique story of how they got here. I'm meeting these Indonesian tribes that converted to Christianity only in the recent last few decades, and they're telling me how Israel is speaking to them in their hearts, how they're hearing a ringing in their ears that says, "Guide your feet to Zion." And I'm finding these people from Korea, from the United States, from Canada, from South America, from all across the globe. They're all hearing the similar call, and that banner, whatever it is that people are seeing or whatever it is they're hearing, is working. And the hope, the goal that we're all working in, and it's not a modest goal at all, is to fulfill the words of Isaiah. And I will build a house of prayer for all the nations in Jerusalem. That has to be fulfilled, because everything else that so far that has been predicted has been fulfilled as well. The nations of the world are coming back to the land of Israel. The Jewish people are being brought back to the land of Israel on wings of eagles. And Wings of Eagles, listen, you got to, the prophets at the time, they had to, make do with what they had. It looks like an eagle, okay, but it's a 747. Um, the language of Israel, the language of the Israelites is being spoken again in the streets of Jerusalem. Um, God has intervened divinely when it comes to the land of Israel in 7 wars, and more so when if you count all the operations that we've been in as well. Fantastic things are happening during this time. And one of the things that is predicted is that the nations of the world will gather to the land of Israel. And that's exactly the future that I see between Christians and Jews. We are gathering here. We're finding our place here. We're finding a foundation of our faith here together. We're finding how we can make the world also a better place by working together. And that's where we're at.
So we're seeing God working, and it's time to jump on board. It's time to get involved with what God is doing in the world. So how can our viewers and how can we connect and with you and your organization, and how can we contact you?
So we, first of all, visit our website. That's the main point. You can get all the information about the fellowship, our history, our founder, the teachings that I've mentioned just here in this article that I read that inspired me to stay a part of this organization and to want to work in this field for, I don't want to say the rest of my life, but it seems like the rest of my life because I just like it. So I just enjoy it so much. It's just so incredible. But I don't want to jinx it. First and foremost, go to our website. Website is www.ifcj.org. There you can learn more about us. To be active, there's many different ways you can be involved. We will oftentimes receive requests for people to for us to take written requests from people and put them at the Western Wall. It's almost like a fax machine to God, because here in Jerusalem we like to boast that we have a local connection to God. And the Western Wall, the foundation of the Second Temple, is a place where we believe His Shekhinah, His Spirit dwells. There's ways of getting involved through activism, social media, all of our different sites. We have a social media site on Facebook called Stand for Israel, and that's a very active page that will teach you about what's happening in Israel in this day and time. Just because our faith, the foundation of our faith, is so strong, it doesn't mean that we know enough about politics to defend Israel in the streets. Oftentimes, people that want to listen to faith, they want to listen to politics, but Israel is justified both by faith and by politics. So you can learn more about Israel there. There are ways to donate to our 3 major programs, and I'll quickly list for you the major areas that we're involved in. One is poverty. We're helping impoverished Jews around the world with basic food items and medicine. We receive lists of the people who are in the most need of it in Israel, and we provide for them on a weekly basis, monthly basis. It's a very special project that we have here in Israel called Dignity and Fellowship. And the Dignity and Fellowship is the ability for the constituent that we're helping to choose one of the 3 that he wants to receive from us. He wants to receive medicine. He doesn't need food, so we provide medicine. He receives food, but he wants to choose the food for himself, so he receives a stipend for a grocery store, or that he's able to provide, or one of his helpers is able to provide. And if he wants to receive a food box from us, then he can choose from a number of different food boxes we have put together in Israel. So this is the main area of poverty that we're helping in Israel. We always are helping who the Bible mandated us to help. We're helping the widows, the orphans, and the elderly, and providing for them. A second area is security. We're working in Israel to provide security for areas that are suffering rocket attacks as a result of being in very close proximity to Gaza, strengthening the foundation and their ability, their response teams. One of the major examples of security provisions that we've given to the southern communities is protective vests for the volunteers that are going from place to place under heavy rocket fire. There are those people who go outside even during the storms of rocket fire that are happening outdoors. Storms, it's a weather pattern or something. Storms of rocket fire that are happening outside, and they oftentimes don't have their mid-body protected. So we provided vests that are quite literally shielding them from harm. Other examples, of course, bomb shelters that are in local areas, mobile shelters that are able to provide shelter for people who are not able to get to a main shelter. That's our overall security area, embracing, of course, the Israeli Defense Forces and providing for them as much help as we can for impoverished soldiers. And the third area is bringing the Jewish people back home to the land of Israel. And we selected the countries around the world where specifically Jews are not, they're not the wealthiest. They're not in the best of situations. Oftentimes they're facing, we'll always put to the front of the line people who are facing anti-Semitism, who are facing extreme difficulties, so that they can get back to the land of Israel and have the opportunity to start a new life as a Jewish person, proud in their own homeland. We provide the whole service essentially for Jews around the world. We provide around 5,000 to 6,000 Jews a year. A flight back home to Israel, providing their first stipends, helping them get settled, language help if we can possibly help it, follow-up help it in the land of Israel, establishing yourself here. Things that I really, really could have used as a kid, but I decided to ignore. So now I don't speak either language well because of that. Those are the three major areas that the fellowship is involved in on a day-to-day basis, and they're the three major areas that are really touching people's lives, that are helping people. And I'm very lucky to be involved in that as well. Tomorrow we're visiting one of the local hospitals here in Israel, where we've provided needed medical gear to deal with such viruses as COVID-19, because we found that the hospitals in Israel were exceedingly unprepared and had none of the equipment necessary if cases got past a very, very small threshold. So it's an example of the stuff that we're involved in on a day-to-day basis.
Well, that's amazing. It sounds like the work you do is needed and important. And, just hearing you talk about what you do and what God is doing in the land is getting me excited and inspired to do more. So to all our viewers out there, visit their website, ifcj.org, and get involved with what they're doing.
We welcome you to join our family, is what I can say.
It's been awesome talking to you, getting to know you a little bit more, and get a glimpse into what's happening in Israel, into your organization, into your life. So thank you for joining me and giving us an update about what's happening there.
My pleasure, Matthew. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So to those watching, please remember to go to 9of.com website and sign the Declaration of Repentance, and it'll get you on our email list, and you'll get updates about what's going on and opportunities to serve in the land of Israel. Don't forget to get involved with what Abe and his organization is doing in the land of Israel, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you for joining us today. To learn more about the nation's 9th of Av and how you can be part of the conversation, visit us at 9-av.com.